Welcome, everybody, to our very, very, very first episode of Spokespeople Podcast, brought to you by The Bikeway in Omaha, Nebraska, your full-service shop. Check them out. I am your host, Dave, with my exciting co-host.
Also Dave.
The excitement just bounds from him, doesn't it, ladies and gentlemen? We are here. We brought this podcast to you guys because what we wanted to do is we wanted to bring a little bit of attention to the world of cycling in our own backyard. So we're looking around and trying to find all the things that we can do in the cycling world to enjoy our sport. We're going to be looking at some regional aspects and some national and international aspects. For example, when we get into the Tour de France time, I know Dave's going to be going absolutely crazy at that moment.
Very crazy.
Yep, you can hear it in his voice, folks. I'm telling you.
I'm already excited.
Right now. I mean, we're going to have to probably throw a couple of volume at him just to get him to calm down a little bit. But we're here. We're always looking for some really good guests to come in and join us if you'd be interested in doing that. And you can always send us questions or suggestions to info@thebikeway.com. You're more than happy to do that. Today, very, very excited about our very, very first guest. And we're going to be talking about something that just happened this last week and was extremely cool. So our guest is Brad Oldfield. And he is the race director for the Louisville Gravel Grinder, and he's also a member of the Omaha Velo race team. So, Brad, say hello.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
You betcha. So,
you forgot to mention how handsome he is. You should mention that.
Yes, he has a Gandalf-like beard, which is pretty cool. So, we had a fantastic race on Saturday, the Louisville Gravel Grinder.
Fantastic in quotes, you mean?
In quotes. You can't see the quotes on a podcast, but
can't.
you know.
I'm putting them in there for effect.
Brad was one of the guys that put this all together. The nice thing is that our co-host, Dave, actually raced in it.
I wrote it.
You wrote it.
Yes.
You didn't race it?
Dylan McNeil raced it.
Okay.
Did you fall down?
Oh, man. I saw Teresa Bender literally get blown over.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, Ted Leknowski got blown over.
I heard
Pretty
many
crazy.
stories of that.
Oh, my God.
So-
crazy.
We're kind of lucky because we have a director who planned the whole thing out. And he's been working on this for months. And then we got another person who wrote it. It is
Who's
what
that?
it is.
Oh,
That'd
me.
be you, Dave. Right. So I kind of want to talk with you, Brad, and ask you a couple questions. You know, how would you describe the overall atmosphere, you know, kind of the energy of the gravel race? And to follow on that one is, how did the Louisville community come out to support it?
Well, it was very, very positive from the beginning. I think for the most part, gravel grinders, gravel racers are always pretty positive, pretty happy about being out and racing. Really, no matter what the conditions. I mean, gravel grinders are pretty hardcore, and
Yeah, it's a mixture of like serious but also kind of chill.
yeah.
It's somewhere between road race, I would think, and mountain bike race.
Yep. But positive, but also, you know, people knew what they were getting into on Saturday.
I mean,
because days leading up to the event, we knew that it was going to be windy.
Yeah.
Not that windy.
Crazy.
Obviously, down in the trees at Lilac Hill, we were pretty protected, but I wasn't on the bike that day. So once you got out to that top hill, it was a game changer, I'm sure, right?
Yeah, everyone was talking about it in the days going up to it, but I don't think anyone was really prepared for, you know, just the amount of force that you would literally feel.
Yeah.
The wind pushing you literally off the road in some cases.
Taking your front tire out, right?
Taking your front tire out or just pushing you to the point where you're in the ditch.
How many riders actually were there?
Well, we had 179 sign up.
And this is the first year.
Which is a good
this
number.
Is the first
That's
year.
a good number.
Very first year.
That's fantastic.
It's our inaugural year. So yeah, we had, but I think there was probably 150 that actually got there that day and participated.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so Dave obviously wrote it. He didn't race it, but did you have 150 racers and a couple extra stragglers like Dave along, or was that 150 basically your total number?
Total. That was the total number.
Okay.
That was the total
Yeah.
number.
I think it was probably like a maybe 70-30 split between people who were doing it as a race and then people who are doing it as like a challenge kind of you know, people like to do it for a variety of reasons. you
Right.
know.
And how the community of Louisville
100% support from them.
Really?
Oh yeah,
Nice.
From day one when I first approached them, they were on board. They helped us out with our neutral rollout from town.
Koppel was great.
Koppel, Chevy, GMC, they gave us a couple trucks to do that, and
That was baller.
that was pretty fun. I got some pretty good feedback on
It's
that.
been a
It was
while
pretty
since
fun.
I've had a vehicle lead out, man. That
Right.
was kind of pro.
Yeah, it was good.
Oh, so it's like a start vehicle.
Oh yeah, dude, they were like leading
Nice.
us out for
So we were
like
back
a mile,
about a
and half?
mile. Yep,
Yeah,
a mile
it was
through
cool.
on Main Street through
Like
town,
going through town, man. I felt like Lance Armstrong.
right by all the local small businesses. It was fun.
Yeah, it was neat.
Yep.
Very, very cool.
Yep.
Obviously, the weather was a factor, but you did some cool stuff. So managed to get through it.
Oh yeah.
Any other highlights and things like that from the race that you found were extraordinary?
I don't know, man. Some of the times, even considering the wind, what did Dylan finish in?
I had him right around 310.
Which is insane because we were literally riding pretty much into the wind. Okay, so I'll tell you this. I mean, and I'm
He was
not
going east and then also south. Was
yeah,
the worst part,
southeast,
right?
which is basically the direction of the wind.
Yeah.
So, I mean, most of the stuff out in the country is lined up on plats, east, west, north,
Right.
south. But there's some B roads that'll go this way and that way. But for the first 2 hours, pretty much right into the teeth of the wind, one side of the road or the other, or directly in front of your face, I averaged 9 miles an hour for the first 2.5 hours.
Wow.
I mean, it's just
Tough.
a tough, So the fact that he basically averaged 20 miles an hour for the event,
Right. Crazy.
yeah, and
Yeah,
then
that is pretty crazy.
coming back with the wind on most of those sections. I mean, I saw 40 miles an hour one time, and I saw 28 miles an hour on a level road. The wind was a significant factor.
Yeah.
So the
riding-
serious racers actually had to try to figure out some tactics involved in that as well.
And I'm just curious,
yeah.
not being out there, how many of those lead racers actually had somebody to tuck in behind to get some protection.
I would really like to know how
but-
that front group kind of settled out, and also the second and third groups. Those I didn't really get a chance to talk to those guys because I think they were pretty much going when I got back.
Right.
So
Yeah. Yeah. It was crazy to see Dylan come down that final hill to the finish line.
that
at
kind of
time.
took me by surprise
Wasn't
because I
expecting
wasn't really paying attention to on purpose, like the distances and stuff, because otherwise I would just get kind of pessimistic about it.
Yeah.
So that when we started coming down that last hill, it was crazy because I was with Matt Steele. He was on a single speed, and he was yo-yoing back and forth and in front of and behind like these two other guys on single speed, Rob Evans and whoever the guy that was in third. And Rob Evans comes over the last hill and sprints past Matt. So basically at the very end of a 60-mile race into 30-mile-an-hour winds, comes down to like a sprint between three single speeders. I mean, who would have imagined that?
Yep.
But you had multiple races. You had 50 and you had 100.
Yep.
Right. How did the racers? What kind of feedback did you get from them as far as the course decision, the course choice and design?
I got nothing but positive feedback on the course. Everybody loved it. I mean, even a couple that said that, just keep it the same next year. I mean, obviously I'll probably do something
It would be
different.
interesting
but,
to see how it shakes out without the wind. You know what I mean?
Right.
I mean,
right.
it's going to be the same hills, but it's going to play different.
I don't think people were expecting the elevation
No.
in that part of the state.
So what did you have? Because my computer said 4250 and everyone else was posting stuff like in plus 5,000.
Right.
Okay. So it's legit 5,000 in 60 miles.
I don't think every time I've ridden that course, I don't think I've gotten anything over 5.
Okay.
But it's just,
So probably around
Device?
4,500.
yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Legit.
Yeah. And all those
Which in
MMR
60
roads,
miles is that's a lot of climbing.
Right.
Yeah, it is.
Right.
So you guys had you had male racers, and you mentioned one guy who was a standout, and you also had women racing events as well. Any of the females have standout performances? I saw some of the scores on there that were posted.
Who won the women's race?
Morgan Chafin.
Oh, she was here?
Yep.
Oh, I
she
didn't
came
know she
up
was coming.
from
Bentonville?
From Bentonville.
Yeah.
Yep.
She's a national level racer. She does she do the Lifetime?
I think so.
And some of the other,
think
like,
so.
there's gravel's kind of gotten real pro in the last couple of years.
Sure.
As many of the listeners will know. But
So, yeah. Other
So
than
there was no pre-race. There's no drug screening or anything like that.
No, we didn't have that in the budget.
Okay.
No,
Yeah.
not in the budget
Not
this
in the
year
budget?
for sure.
Right, okay.
But yeah, other than Morgan, Jesse Combs came in
Yeah.
behind her, and
Jesse's
then
been
Teresa,
real strong.
and then Teresa Bender. So
Yeah, I was riding with Teresa for a little while,
Pretty
and
strong
I
field.
had to stop for a nature break. And
Now,
I
Teresa
asked her-
got knocked over from the wind, I heard.
right,
Yeah, that's right. That's right. When I came up on
several
her, she
people
had just got knocked
over from the
over.
several. Yep.
Ted got knocked over. Well, Ted's 6'3". He deserves to be knocked over. So
I'm 6'3". It's, what the
Ted's a taller 6'3".
So,
He's-
yeah,
he might be
because
6'4".
one 6'3" is taller than another 6'3". Yeah,
He's, I was guessing
the math works out.
I think it might
That's
be
legit.
the color, his bright color.
Yeah,
So, feedback was good. The event being coordinated at the. Tell me about the location where you did it.
So Lilac Hill, this is a location that definitely over the last year, we've been doing group rides out of Louisville, riding on that gravel road back and forth, not even knowing that Lilac Hill was even there. I thought it was just a vineyard or something. And one day,
Lilac
Oh,
Hill is,
it's a
is
wonderful
an event
place.
center.
it's
Yeah.
a wedding event
yeah.
center.
I was at a wedding there last year. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's a nice little, like, what is it? An old farmhouse or something?
Yeah. Well, it's the
And just for the record,
It's a
the event was beautiful. I don't believe in the wedding thing, but go
Oh.
ahead.
But yeah, this is the first time that they've hosted anything other than a wedding. So it was amazing.
They're pretty excited about it.
They were super excited about it. It was also this time of year when you're racing bikes, riding bikes, you have no idea what the weather, in Nebraska, what the
It
weather
could be anything.
So it was so nice to be able to have a venue where we could get in and out of the weather whenever.
It was really
No.
nice. That if we do it again there next year, it'll be, I think,
sure.
really great.
Yep.
And let's talk about that. Let's talk about next year. What
Plans are moving
obviously
forward
you've
already.
got plans for next year. You had a great success this year. 150 actually showed up. You had more who signed
Yeah.
up. You had plenty of volunteers.
Yes.
Group of people, put a lot of time and energy. You put a lot of time and energy into this, so that was good. What about? So, what are your plans for the future on this gravel ride?
Yeah, we've already kind of been in talks with the city of Louisville, with Koppel, with Lilac Hill. Some feedback. Everything went, for the most part, as planned. The only thing that we're going to try to work on is maybe some parking. My goal is just to make it bigger and better.
Did we run
Every
out of
year.
parking?
Not necessarily. We did. So we filled Lilac Hill parking, and we filled our overflow
Oh,
down the road.
Okay.
But we do have other options, but I've already been talking with Chris Maxson at Lilac Hill, and we'll see what happens this next year. If we can expand, because with all the property he has, I think he has like over 80 acres there, but
Yeah.
I'm not sure. And we'll see if we're
No, you just do it like kind of
Willing
do
to
at
do
the ski
something.
resorts. You just load some bike racks up on some trucks. You park
Right.
a little bit further down, and you just transport everybody up.
Yeah. And doing that neutral rollout from town was a little stressful, trying to get everybody from Lilac back into town.
but you know what? That was cool.
But it turned out really well.
Yeah, I mean, not a lot of gravel races have something like that.
Right.
I think that's kind of cool. I think people really like that. So
Yeah.
if we could keep doing that,
Right.
that'd be sweet.
Yep.
So maybe
Okay.
just try to get a Corvette next year or something. That'd
Okay.
be just.
Well.
I mean, it is Chevy. so-
Right. Yeah. Right.
So, just real quick, let's just kind of recap everything that we looked at. You learned a bunch of stuff from this one, obviously. So next year, you're looking to go a little bit bigger, a little bit bolder on some of the things you're doing. What about the riders that you had? Obviously, you mentioned that there were people who came up from Arkansas. What were
Right.
some of the racers from? How far away were they?
So we had somebody from Wichita, Kansas. We had somebody from Fargo, North Dakota. A few folks from the Sioux Falls area, Sioux City. Somebody from Wisconsin. So yeah, it was.
And
All right.
those kind of out of town people, I think that's only going to grow as we keep doing it.
Right.
Are we going to try to keep the same date, like first weekend in April, kind of a thing?
It's hard to say. I personally would like to move it a bit.
So like mid-April.
Because this coming weekend is going to be beautiful.
Right, because my wife was a huge help on everything that we were doing. And so I need to extend a crazy thank you to her. Because our anniversary was on Friday. And so I was,
you've been working.
We've been working a lot.
Her name is Mrs. Oldfield. So just in case you didn't know, I'm just putting out a shout there. Mrs. Oldfield, you did great. Also named Misty. She's
all right. Well, behind every good man is an even better woman. So we'll go with that.
So I'm thinking about moving it a bit.
We just got to watch out for Easter because we are in the Easter, because that floats around.
And you never know. I mean, I could move it 2 weeks down the road and it still be
I don't
the weather. I mean, it's not going to make a difference.
We don't move it into March. That's too
too early.
Too early. It's just too risky.
Yeah, too risky for sure.
It is.
So.
But if we find a good date and then people will keep coming. I mean, how many people do Lazy Horse now? They fill up in like a day.
Fill up. Yeah,
okay.
Sure. But yeah, it won't be too far off from what we're doing right now as far as that goes. And I'll probably get that set here in the next month or two.
Okay. Well, when you do, come back. Let's talk about it some more. We're going to step into a quick break. We want to thank Brad for coming out with the Louisville Gravel Grinder and Omaha Velo. We'll take a quick break, and then we'll be back. We got another guest coming on, Doug Scherlie from Ride Across Nebraska. He'll be our next guest. So we'll be back in a flash. All right, we're going to take a second here to give a shout out to our sponsor, The Bikeway. For a quarter century, the Bikeway has been the premier destination for all things cycling in Omaha and beyond, with a legacy of passion, dedication, and community. Discover the latest and greatest from top brands like Giant, Liv, Transition, Santa Cruz, Scott, Bianchi, Sunday BMX, and DK. We've got the perfect ride to fuel your adventure. More than just a shop, explore our extensive selection of apparel and accessories. And the Bikeway Certified Service Department has you covered, from basic maintenance to suspension work to custom builds and everything in between. And while you're here, treat yourself to a delicious cup of coffee. As a rider-owned and operated establishment, you can trust that we're dedicated to providing the best possible experience for fellow enthusiasts like you. So join us at the Bikeway, where every ride is an adventure. Here's to 25 years of riding together and many, many more. Okay, so we are back with another segment of the Spokespeople podcast. One of the things we like to do here is talk about what's kind of going on in our neck of the woods. So today I'm really excited to talk to you about B.R.A.N, which is the Bicycle Ride Across Nebraska. This event is kind of dear to my heart. I participated in it when I was a kid, and I'm really excited about having Doug Scherlie here, who is the president, CEO, and director of B.R.A.N. And Doug's going to talk to us all about it and how you, our listeners, can get involved. So, Doug, you there? How are you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing real good.
Good. So, Doug, I've been excited about getting you on here and talking about B.R.A.N. B.R.A.N is kind of special to me. When I was 16, I did my very, very first B.R.A.N. It was B.R.A.N 7. Started out in Alliance, Nebraska. Ended up in we ended up in Wahoo, and it was a great experience, great time. That was, I hate to date myself, but that was back in 1980, 86 or 87. I can't recall. That's how long ago it was. Had to have been 86 because I was 16. So B.R.A.N's been around a long time. How long has the brand been running? And, what was the inspiration behind the start of this whole thing?
B.R.A.N was the, brainchild, if you will, of a group of individuals that started out with the Northwest Rotary. And it consisted of several businessmen and your typical Rotarians. And this was about 44 years ago. They originally wanted to come up with a way for people to get out and be healthy and ride more. They'd seen some inspiration from RAGBRAI, and they kind of took their cue because it seemed like it was a little bit wilder than what they really wanted to participate in. And they formulated a plan to start their own, and they decided to call it the Bicycle Ride Across Nebraska because the acronym fits well with the themes of the state and so forth.
Okay.
So this is actually our 42nd year, just to clarify that, of the actual rides are considered by, 1, 2, 3, but we consider it 44 years ago because of the COVID years.
And you took 2 years off for during that time, didn't you?
Yes, we did, for everybody's safety and the lack of knowledge on the situation. We just felt it'd be best for the small town communities because most of them don't have the facilities. If we'd have had something as serious as what it looked like in those towns, there'd been a lot of people possibly lost. So we chose to set it out.
Okay. So, you talk about the communities and things like that. So in the route that you have, this is basically you start on a Sunday to a Saturday, correct?
Yep.
Okay. Tell me a little bit about the route you have. Every year you guys do a different route. So this year is unique. Tell me a little bit about this the route that you have. And are there any particular highlights or challenges that, riders can expect along the way?
Well, B.R.A.N is one of the few rides that's left that's a real nonprofit that I'm aware of in the state of Nebraska. And one of the things that's kind of significant about B.R.A.N is the fact that we've been to every county, and as far as I know, every incorporated town in the state, at least once, not more than once. So that includes the little suburb, as I like to call it, Manawi, of one population one.
Well,
yeah.
Okay.
So this year we'll be touring and starting out in Valentine, Nebraska. And for those that may not know a lot about Valentine, it's up in the north central portion of the state. There's a tie-in up there that we're interested in because of the Niobrara River. There is a railroad trestle that leaves, as you leave Valentine, you can get on the Cowboy Trail and take it and follow it down a portion of our route. And you'll be given the option of either riding on the gravel trail to our destination that day of Bassett, or you will be able to get off at the given point there where there's a trailhead and get back onto the highway. I think it's Highway 20, if I'm not mistaken, and you can ride it on the asphalt side of it. So you get two options that day, and pretty much every day of the week we've set it up that way. Bassett's kind of a cute little town, and I would recommend, if you get a chance while you're in town there, go eat at the Range. It's kind of a neat, eclectic, old school town restaurant and so forth. That's kind of what the essence of B.R.A.N is revisiting the tourism side of all these little small town communities and being welcomed by the inhabitants of these towns, because they don't get outside those cities a whole lot. They really appreciate and love having people from out of town come visit so they can kind of show off their community.
Yeah, I noticed the last 2 years on B.R.A.N, the public reception of all the riders. It was a little overwhelming in some cases. I mean, some of these small communities really put on a show. I forget the town. The first year they had a band out there, and they had kind of a little farmers market going on in a park, and I mean it was a heck of an event. I had a good time meeting the people and talking with them. And then there was one year where the bunch of women got together and made pies, and I'll tell you what, I never thought I would say I would leave B.R.A.N gaining 20 pounds, but I ate so much of the pie, the homemade pies, it was off the chart good. So so this year though, you mentioned you got the Cowboy Trail. You've kind of, historically, you've always been kind of a road ride, but you've added some gravel. Tell me a little bit about that. What was your thought behind that process?
Well, each year at the end of the year, we try to do a consensus of the riders, and they vote their favorite host community. And as well, there's questions in there of things that they would like to see potentially come to evolve and be included in B.R.A.N or improve B.R.A.N. So we kind of get some riders' input. And that was one of the things with a couple of years back. I don't know exactly when it started. I'm just going to ballpark it, say 5 to 8 years ago. People started riding more gravel. And as that came about, we started realizing that not everybody wanted to ride paved roads 100%. We kind of started out with some of the riders would bring 2 sets of wheels. They'd have road tires and gravel tires. And it's kind of slowly aspired to bring on this group that are wanting to do more gravel. And be more adventuresome and going on to, some of these gravel state or not county roads. I misquoted that, county roads, and tour through some of the lesser seen portions of the state that are probably even more scenic than the ones that are paved. So we've kind of tried to help work with that and give them that option, as well as still having support on the paved road. So they can take these routes and go through these different points, and then they can stop out on the highway. Like if they need water or something like that, every so many miles, they'll know about where they're at. They can do that and then pick up anything they might need from our support wagons.
Okay.
The other thing about, trying to think of how I was going to say that. The other thing about that is if they get into a situation where they need a repair or something like that, they can make their way back out and contact us on the main roads and so forth. We cannot go on a lot of those trails with our heavier equipment, so they're kind of reliant on them to come out to us, and they can contact us if they needed to and stuff. But they're never really out of reach, but we just choose not to go down a lot of those roads with these big heavy trucks and stuff. It just doesn't work out for us. But
sure. So this year, you guys, so you started Valentine, and then you go to Bassett, and that's a 64-mile ride. And then from Bassett, you go down to Burwell, and that's 66 miles. But in Burwell, you kind of planned a day where you're not leaving. You're kind of hanging out there, I believe, for an extra day. Tell me, why'd you add this change, and what are you kind of hoping to accomplish with this new path?
Well, in the past, we've had riders request, and they pointed out that some of the other rides that they've been on, and they've actually come into some of these different towns and been able to take up some of these options because they had a layover day, which is something B.R.A.N has never really done in the past. But per rider request, we decided to give them that option. And like I said, we're always changing and evolving, and the riders have a lot of input in that. In our perspective, we want to know what they like and what they want, and we try to do that as much as possible. So we've contacted the locals there, and we talked to the chamber and a lot of the groups in the city, and we had plans to do some road rides around that community area, though we're not sure what we're going to get into because the Nebraska Department of Transportation has plans in that same time frame. So it may put a kibosh to a few of our plans. Otherwise, our alternative was we got in touch with the Schweitzer family, and they happen to be the local community host there. They run a tubing and tanking service from the Calamus Outfitters there in Burwell. So there will be an option on the second day we're there for you to basically sign up online through our registration process, and they'll collect the fees and all that, and then we'll transfer those over to the Schweitzers, and they will basically come in and check your name off a list and give you a bus ride out to the Calamus River and do their thing, and then they will return you back, all as part of the fee. So it'll give them some options that we've never really done it this way before. We thought it was a good suggestion, and we're going to give it a whirl this time and see how it works out.
Okay. So now you're stepping out and you're doing a nice long little trek, 77-mile to Petersburg.
Right.
And then you hit Petersburg, do another 77 miles down to Stromberg, and then Wahoo is 54 miles to Wahoo, and then 42 you end up in Louisville. So, you got a couple days that are some nice, good pace rides. You got a couple long ones. Are there any specific requirements or like qualifications that riders need to meet in order to participate in B.R.A.N? Any type of restriction on bikes or type of bikes allowed?
We always recommend that you're in good physical health. I mean, it's always important physically to keep track of your health and visit with your doctor and know your limits. We don't require credentials, anything along that line for that, but we figure people are responsible enough they know whether they think they can do something like this. One of the things that we really suggest is that they have anywhere from 300 to 400 miles on the bicycle that they're planning to use, and that gives them a chance to get familiar with the bike, and the bike essentially to get familiar with them in the sense that their sit bones and everything are developed to where when they're riding, they're not going to be really uncomfortable after the first day. Bike fit, as we know, is very important, and it comes into play with a lot of that. The other thing is they want to make sure, that they've got their bike dialed in. And there again, we recommend that you have a good quality bike that fits you well and that you've ridden and you're familiar with, along with a fix-a-flat kit, if you will, and be familiar with the techniques to basically change the tires on your bike to be able to get them on and off and back on it. We do have some on the road help as far as our SAG service goes, as well as we have a professional bike company.
Yeah, I hear
Bikeway
those
will
guys
be
are amazing.
Yep, they're in town every night. They're always looking to help out. Good group of guys to hang out with and just learn a little bit as you're watching. I know that's kind of how I got started repairing my own bikes, was actually going to the services that were provided on B.R.A.N and watching and talking to the guys that were doing the nightly work on the bikes. And, a lot of them gave away little tips and advice every now and then. And you learn a lot that way. It's not all trial and error. You can learn from the professionals.
Sure. So, like, when you have B.R.A.N, now, how many riders do you typically are going to participate in B.R.A.N each year? And do you have a limit on that? And, is there any specific numbers coming up on 2024?
Well, the long and the short of it is the Nebraska Department of Transportation would like to limit us at 600 riders. As of the last couple of years here, those numbers haven't been as high. In our 25th anniversary year, we went over 600, I'll be honest. And since then, we've had some good years where we were up around 5 something. The last 5 years, I've seen anywhere from 375 to 480. It varies quite a bit from year to year. This year's shaping up to be as good a year as last year. And the fact that we're looking at the numbers now, what they were this time last year, and it's shaping up to be a good ride once again. One of the interesting facts that we get asked about quite a bit is at the beginning of the ride, we'll sit there with the riders meeting to kind of introduce them to how things are done and what we expect of them and following the laws and things like that. But one of the fun things that we do is we actually go through and we ask, how many of you have been on B.R.A.N before? And then we go through and we categorize the individuals and have them stand up. And we basically start off with, 10 years. And how many of you have been affiliated with 20 years? And we go through that process until we get to generally somebody that's been there almost every single year. This year, we won't have the guy that has 42, but we'll have another guy that's real close.
Okay.
And that's sort of fun, along with introducing the rider that came from the furthest distance, which in past years, it's been anywhere from England, or we've had there was a team that came here from Austria, and my son back in his prime used to race a lot of times with those guys, and they used to tease each other back and forth. It was a lot of good fun. Last year, we had some individuals from Nova Scotia. There was another one from British Columbia, and there was a gal from Quebec that I was familiar with that came. So we get a pretty good turnout, and we get anything when it comes to the riding requirements and stuff. Backing up for a second, we get anything from trikes to the tadpole style. I've seen tandem trikes. I've seen touring bikes, road bikes, cross bikes, comfort bikes, e-bikes, and even a few mountain bikes for those that are really hardcore. Those little wheels are hard to keep spinning that far, but people do it all the time.
Yeah. So last year, I do recall, and the year before, I recall, several people from different countries. I remember somebody from Chile, but in the States, you get a lot of people just from different states as well. I think last year you had like 23 different states represented. Have you looked to see how many states are actually going to be represented this year at B.R.A.N?
Well, we're not finished tallying, but you're correct. It was 29 actually last year.
Okay.
And I forgot about the gentleman from Chile. The that's a real popular place. I know some other guys that go down there and ride down there actually, but we do get our fair share of those type of riders. The other thing that's really kind of interesting to point out, and most people don't know this because most of these guys are pretty quiet about it and stuff, but we've gotten guys out here that have done the Ram Ride, the Race Across America. There's the Tabler. There's a bunch of other different rides where they ride basically from the West Coast clear down to the Washington, D.C., Virginia area. And this is actually considered to be one of the training rides. Some of these guys like to come out and test their gear, or they kind of got started with B.R.A.N and then they expanded and went the other way and started riding further and further. So we like to think that we help with that. And anytime we run across those guys, occasionally they'll bump into our course. And if we're on the same, they're welcome to stop in and, take advantage of our services to get water if they need help or something like that. We've always stood up and supported all the other races that come across the state in our general area for that year.
Okay. So last year we had, it was a unique community of people from all over the country and all over the world. It was fascinating to be actually able to just talk to a whole bunch of people. I really enjoyed the conversations and the connections that I made with people on that trip. It was fun. You had mentioned, bike services and things like that, and the Bikeway is going to be out there again this year. We're taking the Beast out because that's our mobile shop. So we're going to be out along the way, and I've got several mechanics that everybody wanted to do it, but I can't take everybody and not have the shop running. So we're going to kind of break it up and have different mechanics on different days this year. But there's also a couple other partners that you do just for like accommodations, tents or trailers or whatever for sleeping arrangements. Why don't you talk about them? Tell us a little bit about who they are and, how would you utilize their services to make their ride just so much easier? Because those guys, as I recall, they put up your tents, they break down your tents, they haul your tents, or you can rent one of the air-conditioned trailers. Talk about them a little bit.
Well, you're mentioning the Pork Belly Ventures group, and they are somewhat exclusive to B.R.A.N in Nebraska as far as that goes, but they got their start in the big tours like Ragbri across the river from us there. And we saw a need a few years back here when I got involved with B.R.A.N to accommodate more types of individuals that maybe didn't want to set up their own tent and things like that. And as we started looking into that and the consideration for baggage trailers and or transporting bicycles, they really stood out as an individual group that could take on the role that we needed and take some of the workload off of our seniors that are part of our group that are getting older, where it was just becoming a bit of a challenge for a lot of them. So when they stepped up to the plate, we started figuring out a way to incorporate their services, and we now have their shower truck. So you get a clean, hot shower every day, and it's in a very professionally supervised trailer that's cleaned in between each individual using it and so forth. And they monitor them each time so that when you step out, somebody checks to make sure everything's good for the next guy. And they have towels there provided. One of their other key features that we really enjoy is they have a trailer that looks like a small car hauler trailer type of unit, and it has what looks like post office boxes, if you will, in there. And there's all these little individual compartments where you can take all your electronics and recharge them for the night and have them fresh and ready to go, whether it's your Garmin, your cell phone, or your laptop, which is really key for a lot of people that are traveling out, trying to get the most out of their life. And they want to travel and ride a bike, but they're also trying to keep in contact with family or businesses and so forth. Along that line, we have the tent service where you can contract them to come in. They'll set up your tent. You basically put your bags in there, and at the end of the day or the following morning, you would basically have all your stuff bagged up and set in the doorway there. They will take it from there to their transport truck, take your tent and so forth and move it to the next town. And they basically set it out on a grid so that your tent will be the same position as the ones that were next to you in the next town. So you and they have numbers on them so you can tell where you belong, your address temporarily. And they take a lot of the work out of, on a day where it's rainy or something like that, they get to pack up all those wet tents, and they take your gear and make sure it gets into the trailer and hauled to the next town, as well as they transport everyone else's gear, but they have to bring it to the trailer. So there's a big difference there. They provide the service of getting it from the tent to the truck, where if you're not a paying customer, then you have to get it from your tent, bag your tent, bring it all to the truck. The premier service that everybody really is flocked to, and I've really worked hard with them to keep this going and build on it, is their fat trailers, is what they call them. And they're pretty hot and tempting is what it actually stands for. It's kind of a nice setup because it's a 42-foot trailer that's been converted into apartments, if you will. Each apartment can sleep, I believe, 5 people. And they have 2 sets of bunks, like bunk beds. And then there's what they call a pull-out trundle where somebody can actually sleep on the floor in between them. And then you have a desk, and along with that, you have electrical service there where you can charge whatever you want. And the bonus is you have air conditioning if need be on those hot days. So that's one of those premier things that we incorporated into our ride that we've been expanding on. I think the first year we had 2 trailers. The next year we had 3. Now we're up to 4. So when we come into a lot of these smaller communities, I've heard a few of them kind of kid around and they start to call us the circus, because last year we actually had a circus theme. And when you see all these semis coming into town one after another and setting up, it kind of is reminiscent of the old school days when the circus came to town.
Right. It was a circus, to be honest with you. I mean, it was pretty amazing, the logistics those guys have to go through to do all that stuff. But so anyone out there listening to this, they're curious, hey, how do I find this? I'm assuming everything is online. You can go online to the B.R.A.N website at BR.ANinc.org.
Actually, that's B.R.A.N-Inc.org.
B.R.A.N-Inc.org. Okay.
And if you can't find it that way, or at worst comes to worst, Google bicycle ride across Nebraska, and it'll take you there.
Okay. And everything's right there for the registration. And the registration's open, correct?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And is there a certain time when it closes?
May 15th will be the last time we'll take registrations online.
Okay. All right. Well, Doug, I want to thank you today for, taking the time, talking with us and talking about B.R.A.N. I'm looking forward to it this year. Again, I look forward to it every year. For me, it's just a lot of fun to be out there and meet a lot of people and see a lot of small communities that I probably wouldn't have gone to otherwise. And just kind of remember, where the roots of Nebraska come out of. But I want to thank you. I'm hoping to, we'll be in touch soon. And until then, everybody else, we're going to take a little break right now, and then we'll come back with a couple more things. So, Doug, we'll talk to you soon. And thanks again.
You bet. Thank you.
You bet. Have a good one now.
I think that's really great how it's going to end up in Louisville.
Yeah, Louisville's getting a lot of love and attention this year, aren't they?
We had our gravel race there. Now B.R.A.N's going to end there.
Yeah, and you have to think, B.R.A.N can be anywhere up to 500 riders hauling into Louisville like that. And then you have, all the support vehicles and things like that. So, Louisville's getting a lot of love.
It's such a great little town.
Nice.
It's such a great little town.
It is. It's a good community. A lot of really good people down there. I think it's great. I think the more we can do these type of things, it's very cool. Well, everybody, that is going to be it for our very first episode brought to you by The Bikeway. We want to thank you guys for listening. We're going to have another episode coming out with new guests, new topics, new ideas. And, we're going to give Dave a couple of Valium to calm him down a little bit because he's just a little excessive.
I probably had too much
today.
caffeine.
A little bit. So anyway, until then, guys, everybody be safe and keep riding.
Peace.